तो मेरी जो जर्नी है वो तो इट स्टार्टेड वे बैक जब ऑर्कुट नाम का एक प्लेटफॉर्म होता था जो कि आज के फेसबुक का ग्रैंड डैडी था. दिस वाज वे बैक in 2004 or somewhere around that. I experimented with digital marketing back then, and there was nothing digital marketing, I don't think, as a term also used to exist. It was largely some static banners that you could buy in some platforms here and there, and that was the digital marketing bit. I saw how youngsters were actually connecting with the brand, and while these were not numbers in millions, but whatever little numbers were there, that was very, very engaging.
So social media and content कितना important है किसी कंपनी के लिए, and how to go about it, right? From getting started to getting the best outcomes. So that's a question that we will address once and for all today. आज हम बात कर रहे हैं प्रसून कुमार से. He is the business head and CMO at JustDial. He has headed marketing and branding for Reliance, Sony Mobiles, Magic Bricks and Levi's in the past. So हम बात करेंगे around content and social media, around influencers and influencer marketing, around data and the evolution of marketing in general. This is one of the most comprehensive discussions out there on marketing for businesses. Watch till the end. But also one last bit, it would mean a lot to me if you subscribe to the Goventure channel at this point. Hey Prasun, welcome to the podcast.
Hey Pritesh, thanks a lot for having me on the podcast. Look forward to have an interesting conversation today.
Prasun, to start with, Prasun, I want to talk about luck, right? A lot of people talk about luck, and so what do you think luck is, and how can one get lucky?
Well, this is interesting. Anything and everything, I believe, can be converted into some sort of a linear equation. And just like in a linear equation, you have controlled and uncontrolled variables. So is it with luck. There are a set of controlled variables that are there, which you can very well work upon, play, and therefore try to get as lucky as you can. There are uncontrolled variables as well, which probably you and I do not have a control over. Therefore, there's no point talking about it or discussing it as well anyway. But there are controlled variables. What are the controlled variables? You get lucky when you work really, really hard. I have seen this in my career over the years, over decades, where I have found myself to be lucky to be really getting that opportunity, or really to be able to bag that project that everyone has been vying for, and it fell in my kitty. And when I look back, I do realize that one of the most important variables that played a role over there was a lot of work related to that particular project and opportunity. So nothing takes away from hard work. Second, I think, is also a mindset to be open for opportunities. Opportunities do come knocking in everyone's life, at least once in life. That much I believe. And if you are open about it, if you are willing to grab it, it will be yours. And therefore, having an attitude to be open to opportunities as and when it knocks your door is also very, very important. Third variable I think that one can work upon is networking, and I couldn't emphasize more or less here. I do think a lot of opportunities, and therefore opportunities converted into what you call luck, comes across your way through people. And if you are networking well, if you are in touch, if you are regularly having conversations, those open a lot of door for you as a professional, and therefore that also becomes an important variable in what we call luck. So these, I do think, are some of the controlled variables that you can play upon. Besides this, yes, I mean, there's always that uncontrolled part of the lady luck that we keep waiting for. That happens as when it happens.
I think that was brilliantly summarized. I think Prasun, I have very similar views. मुझे भी ऐसा लगता है कि luck में there are things that you can do to push your luck, and there are certain things जो कि मतलब fortune है, जिसको बोलते हैं कि you get fortunate, wait to get fortunate, right?
हाँ, मुझे लगता है कि you just if you just keep waiting for luck to smile on you, वो होता नहीं है. You have to definitely work to let the lady luck smile on you. और वर्क करने का पार्ट होता है, वर्क करने के पार्ट में ये सब चीज़ें इंपॉर्टेंट हैं.
गॉड ठीक. सो प्रसून, कमिंग बैक टू योर जर्नी, एक सीएमओ की का रोल के बारे में बात करते हैं. इट्स something that evolves continuously, right? One of the roles probably in the industry that has evolved the most across last 2 decades, definitely. Digital revolution आया, social media rise हुआ. पहले digital world एक rise हुआ, ठीक है, बहुत सारी चीज़ें उसके कारण बदली marketing में. फिर एक social media का rise हुआ, again बहुत सारी चीज़ें बदली. How do you stay ahead of the curve and ensure कि your marketing team and also मतलब your own marketing skills rapidly adapt कर रहे हैं consumer behavior से and preferences से?
इसको समराइज करने के लिए देयर इज अ वेरी स्मॉल देयर इज अ वन लाइनर दैट आई ऑलवेज हैव रेडी. व्हाट आई यूज्ड टू डू 10 years ago as a marketer, if I just look back, उसमें से आज मैं एक भी चीज़ें नहीं करता हूँ, राइट? सो इट हैज़ एब्सोल्युटली इवॉल्व्ड और ड्रामेटिकली चेंज टू दैट एक्सटेंट. और as we say, every decade brings its own flavor, its own opportunities and so on and so forth. मगर मुझे लगता है पिछले 20 to 30 years में जिस तरह के ड्रामेटिक इंटरवेंशंस और जिस तरह के डिसरप्शंस हमारी लाइफ में आई हैं, that has meant that you are constantly reinventing yourself every 3 or 4 years, and there's something new coming your way. I mean, I started my career way back in 1998, and that was almost a pre-internet stroke nascent internet era. और उस समय में कहने को तो गूगल भी नहीं था इन रियल सेंस. नेटस्केप वाज द नेविगेटर जिस पे हम जा कर के एंड देयर वाज नो ब्रॉडबैंड, देयर वाज नो फ्री फ्लो ऑफ इंटरनेट, सो आई हैव सीन दैट एरा. आई हैव सीन इंटरनेट इवॉल्विंग फ्रॉम देयर, हाउ डिजिटल हैज़ डिसरप्टेड लाइफ, उसमें कैसे हमारी पूरी लाइफ डिजिटाइज हो गई है. और आज हम जो करते हैं एज अ मार्केटियर, हाउ दैट हैज़ absolutely nothing to do what I was learning when I was a rookie. And so as they say, life is a journey, so is a career. और मुझे लगता है उस जर्नी में there are milestones, there are challenges, there are things that come. But as a marketer, I think the question that you asked about looking at it from the lens of a CMO, जो अच्छी चीज़ें हुई हैं उसमें ये है कि अब मार्केटिंग इज़ एन एब्सोल्यूट साइंस. देयर इज़ अ लॉट ऑफ स्टैंडर्डाइजेशन, predictability. There is a lot of scientific thinking that has gone into it, and therefore it is becoming a very, very robust practice. It has already become to a large extent. It wasn't so back in early days when I started my career. It was still something which was yet to be evolved, where a lot of things were not known, not seen, and therefore you were experimenting a lot, which was a good thing of that era, because नई चीजें आ रही थी, तो you were also experimenting a lot, you were learning, so learning curve was very fast. I think between in the first decade of this millennia, those who have practiced marketing would vouch that their learning curve was probably fastest in that decade. Also because as we had opened up as a country, our economy had opened up, so the real impact of the 91 revolution that happened came in the first millennia of this decade, first decade of this millennia, sorry. तो उससे क्या हुआ कि the kind of industries, the kind of scale, the kind of processes and policy-led standardization that happened, and the entire robust process of building businesses and marketing as a practice completely evolved. तो ये सब बहुत ड्रामेटिक चेंजेस हुए हैं. Right from just to again give you a small example, जब हमने शुरू किया था तो जब हम टेलीविजन पर उस समय एडवर्टाइज करते थे, there were no softwares, there were no scientific tools available to measure audiences and to really take a scientific decision. They used to be diary method, and diary में लिख करके some numbers and data used to come. So it was as dinosauric as that. And वहाँ से फिर the way things are today, where MarTech has kind of got into levels where you are able to predict a consumer's next move and therefore do a lot of predictive marketing, is something which probably could not have been envisaged back then. It's kind of an Elon Musk phenomena. अभी एलन मस्क बोलता है कि भाई हमें मार्स पे जाना है एंड विल बी ऑन मार्स एंड वी आर लाइक हाफ स्केप्टिकल हाफ बिलीविंग एंड सो ऑन एंड सो फोर्थ. If you would have told me way back in 98 कि boss you'll be able to predict consumers behavior and you'll be predict next move वहां से कहाँ जा रहा है and you'll be able to get that consumer in, I would have just laughed and I said yeah right. So yeah, it's that dramatic a change as a marketer.
I think being able to predict consumer behavior has been one of the most shiny moments for overall marketing है ना. I think it's crazy. आपने mention करा प्रश्न कि एक टाइम था जब गूगल वगैरह था ही नहीं. हाँ, एक नेटस्केप करके चीज हुआ करते थे. I think was started by this Mark Anderson, right? ये एंडरसन हॉरोवर्स का उन्होंने स्टार्ट करा था and he brought the internet to the world actually. मतलब he said कि okay, मतलब I remember back then ऐसा चल रहा था कि the discussion was like this कि internet is not for everyone, right? Internet is probably internet highways बनाएंगे and all of that बनाएंगे. Microsoft and all were building it, right? Crazy how the world has evolved. 98 to 2023, I think, I believe, just 25 years.
Yeah,
I don't think I want
absolutely. It's kind of a movie material if you really ask me. If you really do a movie on how business has evolved over the last 25 years, how businesses have evolved and how how different businesses are managed, how differently it is managed today. ये बिल्कुल एक मसालेदार मूवी का पार्ट है because everyone will have a story to share, to tell. मैं तुम्हें एक छोटा सा एग्जांपल देता हूँ. जब उस समय में हम क्लाइंट को प्रेजेंटेशन करते थे या इंटरनल प्रेजेंटेशन करते थे किसी को, there was no laptop driven, PowerPoint driven presentation and through projector etc. that used to happen. We used to have those acetate sheets और वो हम acetate sheets में पहले कंप्यूटर में कुछ टाइप करते थे. those back days, those डायनासोरिक कंप्यूटर्स, उसमें कुछ टाइप करके फिर उसके प्रिंट आउट निकालते थे एसिटेट शीट में. फिर उसको एक ल्यूमिनस प्रोजेक्टर होता था, उसमें नीचे में बल्ब होता था, उसमें लाइट आती थी, उसके ऊपर रखते थे, उससे कुछ प्रोजेक्शन. इट वाज दैट एंड इट वाज क्रेजी. दोज वर क्रेजी डेज. एक स्लाइड बनाने में यू यूज्ड टू काइंड ऑफ टेक 6 hours. सो हम वहां से हम कहाँ पहुंच गए हैं. It's a matter of some interesting storytelling.
I think Prasun, what caught my eye the most now is the fact कि he said कि मतलब the way presentations were made earlier is crazy, but believe me, I belong to the world जब कि presentations, मुझे लगता था presentations is all about PowerPoint. PowerPoint and Google Slides were the one who brought in presentations, I believe. I always thought. Crazy man, crazy.
Yeah, when I was in college, हमें लगता था कि if we are able to change the font of the line, we have done a great job because हमारा कुछ अलग दिख रहा है, and that was the value addition in the presentation.
Got it. Awesome. So एक बार थोड़ा सा coming back to the days of 2023, कंटेंट मार्केटिंग की बात करते हैं. बहुत effective way है engage करने का content marketing with your consumers and to build brand loyalty also, right? And is being used brilliantly these days by across a lot of new entrepreneurs, across a lot of old companies also, right? Large companies also. And from our previous discussion, हमने जो पहला discussions करें उससे, I believe you are a very strong believer in the same, right? Can you share some examples of how content strategies have made a significant impact on a company's growth?
Oh, yes, of course. Content is something that I am a big believer of, and I have seen this not only working but also creating a lot of differentiation for brands and businesses over the years, जिस पे मैंने काम किया हुआ है. मेरा तो पर्सनल एक्सपीरियंस भी रहा है because I run a YouTube channel and I produce rather serious content and I have never done any hanky panky promotion around it, but I mean the way followers have come in and the kind of questions that come my way, the kind of discussions that they want to have, it kind enriches me a lot. So content is something that I believe everyone has always been hungry of. The world has always been hungry of content. The society has always been content driven. पहले जब हम बचपन में थे तब दादी नानी की कहानियाँ होती थी and पंचतंत्र स्टोरीज होते थे. फ्रॉम देयर टू हाउ ब्रांड्स हैव यूटिलाइज्ड कंटेंट वेरी स्मार्टली. एक छोटा सा एग्जांपल मैं देता हूँ. मैजिक ब्रिक्स के मेरे स्टंट में रियल एस्टेट इज अ a very different category where the consumer's journey is kind of online, offline at multiple stages of the funnel, and usme the buyer is always hungry for content. A buyer always wants to know more about the project that the person wants to invest in, and and the information was hard to come by. वहाँ पे मैंने एक बहुत सिंपल चीज़ की थी. वहाँ पे जो हमारा यूट्यूब चैनल था, स्टैंडर्ड यूट्यूब चैनल था ब्रांड का, उसको आई कन्वर्टेड इनटू अ डेस्टिनेशन, अ कंटेंट डेस्टिनेशन, एंड आई काइंड ऑफ क्रिश्चियन दैट एज MBTV. एंड द purpose of MBTV was to simplify real estate for consumers, because inside बहुत clear था. Real estate was a masculine category. It was generally presumed that is the man of the house who will do the run around and look for a home and build a home or buy a home, and women of folks would largely take care of the home beyond that. So it was as demarcated as that. The idea was to break a lot of those boundaries as well, and also simplify it, because there's so much legality, there's so many technicalities involved in real estate, that an average user, an average consumer finds it very very difficult to really understand a lot of those things. I mean, एक average consumer को तो super build-up area और carpet area में difference भी नहीं पता होता. And what happens is, therefore, you fall prey to a lot of not so nice experiences in the category, and so इन सब को ध्यान में रखते हुए we decided to really simplify it. उस platform को मैंने I started generating content. I converted a office का meeting room into a green room, into chroma room, and we started shooting content over there through DSLR cameras, and we started simplifying it. We started telling consumers what everything means and what they should be doing, what they should not be doing. We started calling experts and making them converse with consumers about their issues, challenges. That took off like absolute fire. And in no time, that platform saw adoption from some 4,000 subscribers to 200,000 subscribers. Now 200,000 is a big number in real estate, because the overall size of real estate market, primary real estate market in India itself is a million unit. So uske 20% to already we had aggregated. So and this was pure content play. There was nothing else in this. We were only giving content that probably consumers never had access to. They had never seen real estate or heard real estate in that language, and all of that made a difference in that category. So that's one shining example, something that I have experimented with and has worked really well. Besides that, I have seen content working also at many levels. Right, I have seen blogs and simple FAQs working very very effectively. When we used to, and in today's world, it's all about ROI driven marketing. So every single marketing dollar जो हम खर्च कर रहे हैं, we are constantly scrutinizing it to really see what is it that we are getting at the end of the day. वो $1 जो डाल रहे हैं उसमें. Now the point remains that when I look at things, I see certain things produce far larger returns for the dollar investment in unit terms than other things. So उसमें content led जो बहुत सारी चीजें हैं, they have played a large role. I mean, I do not have to tell anyone how in 90s and early decade of this millennium, television was a big deal from a marketing point of view, and how it helped build brands and businesses. And there are many local businesses which became pan India. There are many businesses which actually found their strength. There's this one brand based out of Delhi called Luminous Inverters. Luminous started just advertising on television for their inverters, and that was the beginning of their journey. And look today where they are. They are fairly diversified electrical and technology group. So content has always helped. Content is what consumers connect with at the end of the day. So content marketing is a no-brainer. I think businesses which are not into content marketing obviously do not know how to do business in a way. I keep telling this to a lot of B2B guys that I meet. They believe that content has limited role for them, and I keep telling them no. Content is something that can really take your business to the next level. So yes, I'm a big believer. You are absolutely bang on.
I think interesting. I think a lot of interesting stuff you pointed out, Prasun. I remember seeing some of these Luminous ads. Sachin Tendulkar used to come, and I think he's still the brand ambassador for Luminous, right? But one very interesting point that I want to discuss, Prasun, is B2C में तो बहुत समझ में आता है, जो कंज्यूमर को आप डायरेक्टली सेल कर रहे हैं तो कंटेंट का गेम है, बिकॉज कंज्यूमर इज अ ह्यूज कंटेंट कंज्यूमर इन जनरल आल्सो, राइट? हाउ अबाउट B2B? You mentioned B2B, right? How do you think
Yeah.
content can play a big game in the B2B whole ecosystem? जब किसी businesses को आप SaaS tools बना रहे हो या किसी businesses को कुछ बेच रहे हैं तो?
देखो, B2B स्पेस में एक्चुअली कंटेंट प्लेज अ लार्जर रोल. B2C स्पेस में क्या होता है, कंज्यूमर्स वांट टू get emotively connected with you, right? I mean, you and I make purchases based on a certain emotive connect that we find with the brand at the end of the day, and that helps us in convincing ourselves to invest us. B2B space is a very logical and utility driven space. And there, your consumer or your customer is not really looking at that one liner or that tagline to impress him or her. They are the need for content, the need for deeper content, the need for a wider spread of content, and content is what can convince them to really associate themselves with you. Even if you're doing even if you're starting a relationship, at that point of time content of course plays a major role, because you get evaluated against your competition based on what you're bringing on table, and what you do bring on table is expressed through that content. So B2B space में तो content का बहुत ज़्यादा role है, as much more than B2C space actually. How you are putting across your company, how you are profiling your company, how you are profiling your product, how nicely and in detail you are crafting a proposition and trying to convince the purchase manager on the other side, or the person on the other side कि boss ये product आपके use के लिए सही है, and so on and so forth. All this is going to be content driven, and once you have forged a relationship, beyond that, how frequently you are connecting, and how frequently you are updating your customer base, how frequently you are sharing and updating your customer base, all these things go a long way in forging that relationship and cementing that relationship. So content all the more important in B2B actually.
So what kind of content do you think B2B may works out best?
मुझे लगता है, देखो, at the end of the day the person on the other side which is doing business with you is looking at one, solving the problem that they have in hand, and therefore you are there, and therefore the relationship is, so that's one part of that anyway, and content has a role to play over there. But beyond that problem solution area, they are also looking at that constant reinforcement of their decision that they are with a connect partner. The partner is ahead of the curve, the partner is really thinking about their business, is really understanding their business, and therefore is coming on the table with value added ideas, services, opportunities, and so on and so forth. These are the things that are looked forward to. और आप ये सब तभी कर पाते हो when you are constantly having a conversation, and this conversation more often than not cannot be always done one to one or on a Google Meet call. A lot of these conversations are delivered in the form of content, whether they are written content, video content, whatever form of content. So your ability to express yourself and express your ideas, express your pitch through these materials is very very important, and at regular frequency at that. Deal ho gaya, done and dusted with is obviously not the approach that anyone can sustain relationships with, and so a lot of this content, and in my experience, whatever little I have observed, I have seen a lot of content which are very research based content. The person on the other side of the table is also looking at understanding a lot of things, while they may be in a certain business, but you can always add value to their understanding, and your stature as a partner obviously goes up, and you are seen in a different way if you are able to add value to their business thinking. And a lot of these things are very very important, and I do think यहाँ पे content का बहुत important role है. आप कैसे चीज़ों को एक्सप्रेस करो, और आज के डेट में तो मुझे लगता है बिकॉज मोस्ट ऑफ द कंटेंट इज कंज्यूम्ड ऑन मोबाइल, मोबाइल फर्स्ट कंटेंट, प्रेफरेबली वीडियो ड्रिवन कंटेंट, एंड कंटेंट विच इज short and sweet. Nobody has patience now to really sit through a 5-minute video. If you are really able to distribute a content which is short snacky content but really meaningful for you, I think that's the space to be in, even in B2B.
And there should be a tinge of humor or meme content kind of stuff that is
Not really. I don't think in B2B that's required, really. I don't think in B2B that's required, really.
more serious content. Yeah.
Humor works well in a business environment. Yeah. It has to be serious. It has to be serious content. The mode of delivery may or may not be very serious in that sense. Mode of delivery can be very engaging. And that's what one needs to be careful about. But the content has to be serious there.
So let's say, Prasun, let's say I'm building a marketing SaaS or some SaaS tool, right? And I want to up my content game. I want to get started with my content game. What would be the platforms that you would say कि यहाँ से start करें? Should it be YouTube? Should it be blogs? What are the first two platforms, do you think?
Well, मुझे लगता नहीं है कि platform should be the first. That's the right way to look at. I don't think it should be platform driven. I think any approach has to be need driven. You first have to identify what is the need that you're fulfilling. Why are you generating that content in the first place, right? What is the need of the other person? Once you have zeroed in on the need, and therefore you are zeroing on the kind of content that you want to produce to really fulfill that need, I think mode of distribution becomes kind of secondary over there. Whether you are doing blogging about it, or whether you are generating a YouTube video around it, as long as the content is servicing a requirement, is servicing a need, it will have takers, right? In whatever form. But yes, if you really ask me, video driven content which is short and simple is something which is far more engaging. And it's age old saying, yeah, I mean, a video is 1,000 pictures and a picture is 1,000 words. So
Awesome. I think that summarizes the entire discussion. But Prasun, I want to come back to your YouTube channel. You run a YouTube channel as well, right? You have got a decent following. वहाँ पे. I want to understand what kind of content is getting distributed on the YouTube channel that you run.
So when I wanted to start this channel, I was really looking at one thing. If you go online and if you search around things around marketing and business and so on and so forth, you get a lot of rehashed content. Everyone is talking the same thing. Everyone is giving you the same definition. Everyone is giving you the same gyan, if I can really call it that, like that, right? I do think a lot of intelligent guys may not be interested in that. So when I wanted to start, I didn't want to really be part of the herd. I wanted to do something very, very different in this space. So I started with a theme that I will be picking up day-to-day developments in business world or even in our normal life, and convert that into an example of how probably you can learn few marketing lessons from there, or you can learn few business management lessons from there, and so on and so forth. So if you really look at my content, it's really about happenings of today. It's really about topical discussions, topical matters that are happening, and what do you really learn from that. So you are in edtech space, so I recently did a piece around Byju's and all the discussions that are happening around Byju's and all the troubles that are there. Now I did express my views in the sense that I try to enlighten my followers, saying, listen, this is what it is, and this is how it should be, or this is what could have been better, and so on and so forth. So kind of synthesizing daily developments into marketing and business lessons is what my channel is all about. So rather serious to that extent, but I try to keep it as engaging as possible by using topical conversations. But nonetheless, I've got decent 30,000 people following me, and it's a very highly engaging channel for me. So I have huge amount of queries that come to me on email, and especially a lot of students who are currently pursuing masters in business administration or otherwise. They come back, they ask a lot of questions related to the videos and their point of views. So it's quite enriching as well.
Got it. I think since we are at the topic of YouTube, I want to talk a little bit about influencer marketing as well, right? जो बहुत एक prominent strategy बन गई है अब for many brands, right? Every brand is trying to reach out to as many YouTubers, as many Instagram influencers, LinkedIn influencers. There are influencers across all platforms now, right? What is your perspective on influencer marketing, and how to ensure कि influencer partnerships ना एक brand के image के साथ, एक values के साथ align हो, क्योंकि these are probably people who are building in their own, probably in some ecosystem या कुछ ecosystem को पकड़ के उसके around content build कर रहे हैं. Yeah, what's your perspective on that, man?
Influencer marketing has a lot of merits. Okay. We were talking about content marketing a little while ago. उसमें हमने डिस्कस किया कितना important है content from a business and brands perspective. Now, अगर वही content एक influencer के through distribute होता है, तो its efficacy goes up dramatically. Because then you are reaching out to a set of people who already are in a frame of mind कि तुम्हें सुन रहे हैं और तुम्हें favorably सुन रहे हैं. And that opens a lot of doors, for you as a brand. However, having said that, my experiences of influencer marketing have not been very good. And जब भी मैंने use करने की कोशिश की है, I have always found it to be falling short of my expectations at least. उसके कुछ reasons हैं, और ये चीज़ें मैं whenever I meet an influencer, I do kind of drop it to them as well. क्या होता है कि in influencer marketing it's kind of become another herd marketing phenomena. So what happens is the way you buy spots or secondages in bulk on television, and you are just bombarding consumers with your message, and we call it spray and pray strategy. Now, when you are just spraying your messaging and praying that somebody is actually gathering that and listening to it, it's really not effective at that stage. That is something similar that is happening to influencer marketing. Influencer marketing में क्या हो रहा है कि आज के डेट में brands are just not thinking enough, I think, and just because they have to probably put a check mark in the box, tick the box. Therefore एक influencer marketing का section होता है marketing plan में. But if I see around how influencers are being used, और क्या उसका output आ रहा है, I come to a conclusion that nobody is actually putting their brains behind it, and a lot of this is being done just as a matter of executing something that has to be executed. I don't think that's going to work this way, because influencer marketing at the end of the day is a very individual driven marketing. You ask about how important it is to select right kind of personality. It's very very important. Just the way जैसे आप brand ambassador select करते हो अपने brand के लिए, your influencer is your brand ambassador, nothing else, right, in that context. And therefore you need to be equally scrutinizing, or you need to be equally mindful of the fact that the personality that you are hiring, the influencer that you are talking to, really fits your brand's ethos. It really fits the objective. It really fits what your brand stands for, and so on and so forth. वो तो बहुत important है वो filter. But so influencer marketing में अगर मुझे लगता है कि if you are really engaging with an influencer deep, और उसमें एक और challenge है, influencers at this stage have not been able to bring their skin on the table. The metrics that they deliver, or the metrics that they sign off on, are too vanilla. It is reach, it is views, and so on and so forth. In today's world, who cares for reach and views, right? So मुझे लगता है influencer marketing में influencers have to up their game, and they have to really get serious about it. They have to not only start producing content, but also get into conversation with brands and get into deals with brands which are far more meaningful for both the parties, where brands also are sure about gaining some ROI out of the investment, rather than just doing some vanilla thing and be happy about that. Listen, I engaged with ABC and some job was done. So that is where I think there's a challenge. I'm sorry.
Got it.
Just a sec. Yeah.
I think, Prasun, that's a fairly new perspective for me, I'll say. I, on the other hand, have been a strong believer in influencer marketing. But I understand what you say what you're saying. I can hear what you're saying. I was some time back, I was running a company called Fan Game where you used to do influencer based games, right? And I understand what you're saying, that influencers can skin in the game nahi hai. They're not able to. They see all of these deals as just another rupee or just another dollar coming into their kitty. They're not.
Correct.
They're not strong believers. They don't get hands and gloves with the brand to make sure they're able to deliver value. I think that is definitely something that needs to change. I don't know, frankly, if you'll ask me right now, how that change can be brought about. But I think what has happened is that I remember when we were building a company around influencers. Influencers were a very hated term in the startup ecosystem. I remember we applied to Y Combinator, got through, and Y Combinator, the first day that we interacted with our Y Combinator partner, he said that we typically never pick companies that build around influencers, for a very simple reason that the success rates there are terribly low. And the reason behind it is the fact that influencers don't have skin in the game. They are always chasing the dollar. The extra dollar that comes in is enough to sway their loyalty as well. So I think that is definitely something that needs to change. I don't know how that change will come in. I'm hoping that's a positive change that should.
No, that's it's not very difficult to bring that change about. If you really ask me, कभी हम अकेले बात करेंगे तो we'll discuss about it.
Got it. No. I think we can discuss if the views are relevant. Definitely, we can discuss now also.
No, these are ideas, not views. So.
Got it. I think Prasun, I want to talk about your journey also on YouTube, LinkedIn. You're fairly active there also. Can you share some experiences, anecdotes from your own content journey and how it has impacted you and your approach?
Well, I have always been the believer that if you can't market yourself, you can never market a brand. So if you're a good marketeer, you should also know how to market yourself. And I have always been fairly active on social. Social, again, is something that has been very, very close to my heart. And I have always believed in the power of social to the extent that whatever assignments I have taken, my only request to the board or the CEOs have always been that, listen, you need to give me liberty to run social the way I want, and I want to create some value based out of social and not really use it only as an engagement platform. And there also I have seen some very, very decent results. I've experimented with it a bit during my tenure, and some interesting anecdotes there. तो मेरी जो जर्नी है वो तो it started way back in early millennia, first decade of this millennia, जब ऑर्कुट नाम का एक प्लेटफॉर्म होता था जो कि आज के फेसबुक का ग्रैंड डैडी था, और वहाँ की प्रोफाइलिंग से और एंड वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग दैट fairly young I was working with Levi's, and Levi's was a kick-ass youth brand. And one of the things that I got to do as part of Levi's team was to experiment with a lot of edgy stuff. And this was way back in in 2004, or somewhere around that I experimented with digital marketing back then. And there was nothing digital marketing, I don't think, as a term also used to exist. It was largely some static banners that you could buy in some platforms here and there, and that was the digital marketing bit. But जब मैंने वो सब किया था तो that kind of opened my eye. I saw how youngsters were actually connecting with the brand, and while these were not numbers in millions, but whatever little numbers were there, that was very, very engaging. And since then my journey began, and I was I became very, very active on social, all kind of social platforms. And later part I because I couldn't sing and dance well, so I decided not to be an Insta pro in that sense. But I decided to build myself on platforms where my thoughts, my kind of content, and my kind of narrative can find resonance and acceptance with users. and LinkedIn and YouTube were two platforms where I saw maximum resonance happening, and there a lot of people. The good thing about these two platforms is that these are pull platforms. You do not push. You do not go to these platforms. Through some push or just to pass time. You go to a LinkedIn or you go to a certain channel on YouTube only when you want to consume certain kind of content, or are you are in a certain frame of mind. So these two platforms, therefore, I zeroed in on, and I have been writing a little bit, producing a few videos here and there, and I'm glad that people have appreciated whatever thoughts I express. I couldn't be grateful, more grateful for that. But yes, I mean that's been there, and I have never incidentally, because of the kind of content that I generate, मुझे तो कभी ऐसी कोई परेशानी आई नहीं कि कोई मुझे ट्रोल कर रहा है, मगर the brands that I have worked on, वहाँ पे जब भी मैंने कुछ experiment किया है, I do think social में trolling is also a part which is a reality, or one needs to be very very mindful and thoughtful about that. So yes, I mean that's kind of been my social journey, and उसका थोड़ा सा impact मेरी marketing thinking पर भी आता है. Because I जब भी मैं interact करता हूँ, and a lot of youngsters interact with me primarily on social. Whenever I interact with them, whenever I ask them, about their thoughts, their habits, their behaviors in certain situations, and so on and so forth, I always get a new insight. तो और फिर उस इंसाइट को मैंने बहुत बार अपने बिजनेस सिचुएशंस में भी यूज़ किया है, एंड दैट हैज़ बीन वेरी वेरी हेल्पफुल. सो इट्स बीन काइंड ऑफ symbiotic relationship with social media.
Got it. I think that has also, I can clearly see that has also driven your whole content strategies and वो जो inclination है content के towards, right? Yep. And थोड़ा सा एक बार बात करते हैं और around other marketing channels also, because the digital landscape now, it offers a plethora of marketing channels. How do you prioritize and integrate various channels into a comprehensive marketing strategy?
So digital or no digital, irrespective of online versus offline kind of channel segmentation, the starting point for building priority in marketing strategy always is consumers and the objective that you have in hand. And these are the easiest ones to think about, but the most difficult ones to crack. मैंने मेरे पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से मुझे लगता है कि most of the marketeers, and this is my hypothesis, majority of marketers actually fail to very very sharply define their target audience as well. मैंने जहाँ भी देखा है टारगेट ऑडियंस की डेफिनेशन मुझे हमेशा बहुत लूज और बहुत वाइड and it लगती है, और I go back to my college days when professor of marketing told me that, listen, when you define a consumer for outreach, which is say a media definition of a consumer, you go mass. But when you define a consumer for your brand's understanding and what you should do from a marketing point of view, you should always define the consumer in first person, right? So you should just write down what is a day in life of that consumer, and that should be your starting point of understanding that consumer. Now that was very valuable a lesson, and मेरी आज तक वो हैबिट है कि जब भी मैं कोई कैंपेन या मार्केटिंग रिलेटेड कोई भी एक्टिविटी सोचने बैठता हूँ, तो सबसे पहले आई सिट डाउन एंड एक्चुअली राइट डाउन हु इज द पर्सन आई एम गोइंग टू टॉक टू, and what that person's lifestyle is all about, what the person would be doing in a day in his or her life, and what are the kind of influences that the person may have. वो जब आप वो एक पेजर बना लेते हो, वन पेजर आप बना लेते हो, उसी से आपके बहुत सारे जो नेक्स्ट स्टेप्स हैं निकल आते हैं, और उसी से मुझे पता चल जाता है कि मुझे प्रायोरिटाइज एक्चुअली करना क्या है और कहाँ प्रायोरिटाइज करना है. So I think defining your TG in very sharp terms is very critical, not easy, but very very important. उसके बाद मुझे लगता है the objective that you have in your hand. Often क्या होता है कि एक ब्रांड जो है वो एक टारगेट ऑडियंस डिफाइन कर लेता है एंड एवरी कैंपेन स्टार्ट्स चेजिंग द सेम target audience all the time. Okay. And you often do not really go deeper and think deeper कि अच्छा ठीक है टारगेट ऑडियंस वो ब्रॉड है, मेरा एक डेफिनेशन है, प्रीतेश मेरा टारगेट ऑडियंस है, मगर मेरी जो अभी ऑब्जेक्टिव है उसके लिए इज प्रीतेश द पर्सन आई वांट टू रीच आउट, or within that larger cohort there is a separate sub segment of audiences that would be far more would be early adopter of my idea, for example, or my product or service. वो thinking बहुत जरूरी है और वो प्रायोरिटाइजेशन मुझे नहीं लगता होती है बहुत ज़्यादा, and I think वो करना चाहिए. That's something, that's a very good practice. It has always been very handy for me. Looking at therefore the audience very closely and defining the priorities in that sense, वहाँ से फिर निकल के आ जाता है अगर if I'm targeting Pritesh, then I can map Pritesh completely and I understand how do I prioritize my marketing channels. मुझे Pritesh को offline target करना चाहिए, online करना चाहिए, hybrid करना चाहिए, what time of the date and so on and so forth. वो जो पूरा process है marketing plan development का 80% of the process is really defining consumers and prioritizing your marketing dollar. उसके बाद everything that you do, to my mind, is only 20% of the job. Right? अगर आपने ये सही कर लिया तो you will hit the bullseye all the time, every time. मगर अगर ये सही नहीं हुआ है तो it will be very very difficult. Now, therefore, coming back to your core question of prioritization, objective is very clear, target audience definition is very clear. I think one of the critical, I would not say a variable, but it's a given condition that every marketer operates with, is the resources in hand. So you also very closely look at how much money you have or what kind of resources you are playing with, and that also helps or kind of impacts the choice of your platform and prioritization of your marketing plan. So all these things go into really thinking and deciding, and then there are a whole lot of other things, your geographical focus, your other business considerations that one may have, the sales considerations, and so on and so forth. So there are many other variables as well, but I would say that's the sequence.
I think Prasun, from hearing what you just said, मैंने एक चीज रियलाइज करी कि lot of companies now and a lot of marketing people actually end up focusing more on the campaigns, on the expenses and all of that, rather than जो आप बता रहे थे 80% वाला part, which is where you first define your customer, you first define कि क्या achieve करना चाहते हैं and all of that. I believe कि अभी क्या हो रहा है कि 80% of time is being spent after that, right? And just 10-20% of the time is being spent on identifying the consumer and everything. So brilliant take, I'll say.
हाँ, क्योंकि एक बहुत ग्लैमरस जॉब है, दूसरा नॉन ग्लैमरस जॉब है. So marketers have a tendency to chase glamour, more or less. So मुझे लगता है इसलिए थोड़ा वहाँ ज़्यादा टाइम जाता है. But increasingly, as more and more science is coming into marketing, a lot of these things is changing because बहुत सारी predictability आ रही है, and a lot of empirical data points are indicating a lot of trends to you as a marketeer. So अभी मुझे लगता है कि a marketeer has a whole lot of tools and zillions of data points they are sitting on to really be able to do their prioritization well without getting swayed by anything else around.
Got it. And Prasun, that brings up the question, and I will not phrase it in a good way, but unfortunately, as a lot of times now, marketing is seen as an investment. A lot of times, marketing is seen as an expense, right? Especially when we are in a recession right now. अभी marketing को ऐसे expense देखा जा रहा है, growth पे लोग expense spend किए जा रहे हैं. What do you think? Marketing is an investment, or is it like an expense?
Marketing is always an investment. You as a business manager or you as an entrepreneur have to decide when do you want to really invest. It's a question of timing. Whenever you do marketing always is investment. Okay. Now. Typically, when you are chasing growth, you look at marketing. The CMO is the hero of the company. But in recessionary times, when you're really chasing cost rationalization, or when you're chasing really the bottom lines, then the CFO is the hero of the organization. So this seesaw battle keeps happening. But मुझे लगता है कि from an entrepreneur's or a business owner's perspective, if you really ask me, marketing always is a growth engine, is always a growth driver. Now you have to prioritize in your strategy, when do you want growth to happen. There would be times, and growth is not something, growth is not a pill that you should take all the time and for every reason, right? किसी भी चीज की जो ज्यादती होती है वो गलत होती है. तो growth also is the same thing, right? You need to very smartly plan, when do you want to really push the growth button, and when do you really want to kind of take a back step back and really solidify your gains, and put everything in proper structure, and then again start chasing the next milestones. I think businesses are not built in a day, और ये milestones जो हैं over decades are very very important. And ये मुझे थोड़ी सी लर्निंग जस्ट डायल के फाउंडर जो है VSS मनी, उन्होंने भी दी. फर्स्ट जनरेशन एंटरप्रेन्योर एंड मिडिल क्लास पर्सन बिकमिंग एन एंटरप्रेन्योर in the era of 90s, early 90s. And he kept saying that, listen, people think I am too conventional or conservative a business person, but building businesses is a painstaking job, and no matter whatever glamour you associate with it, it's not glamorous at all. And so you need to be really planning things well, and marketing के साथ भी वही है. If you're not planning it well, and मैं एक simple सा example देता हूँ तुम्हें. देखो, there are proven studies where during downturn, brands who have invested in marketing have always gained disproportionately higher when the upturn happens. Okay, that's also a proven study. Right now, but the conventional wisdom will tell you कि जब डाउनटर्न आता है तो आपको मार्केटिंग एक्सपेंसेस कम कर देने चाहिए, because obviously your top line is suffering, so your expenses also need to come under control. So I think कोई एक इसकी कोई एक स्ट्रेटेजिक रिकमेंडेशन तो हो नहीं सकती. हर बिजनेस, हर कैटेगरी, हर इंडस्ट्री की अपनी प्ले होती है, और उस पर्सपेक्टिव से हर बिजनेसमैन को और हर एंटरप्रेन्योर को डिसाइड करना चाहिए कि व्हेन डू यू रियली वांट टू स्विच ऑन मार्केटिंग, व्हेन यू वांट टू स्विच ऑफ मार्केटिंग, एंड सो ऑन एंड सो फोर्थ. ये स्विच ऑफ स्विच ऑन चलते रहना चाहिए. एंड स्ट्रेटेजिकली अगर आप उसको यूज करोगे और सही चीज के लिए यूज करोगे, तो मार्केटिंग विल नेवर कम अक्रॉस एज अ कॉस्ट टू यू, because even in times of downturn you would know what you want to achieve out of marketing, and therefore that you will see that as an investment. वो आपको कॉस्ट तब लगेगा जब आप when you are chasing wrong metrics. In a downturn, if you are chasing 30% CAGR, and that is hard to come by, and then you say it was a cost, and it was money not well, well spent, and I have seen many of these cases in my life. That's not the right lens to really look at it. Maybe that strategic decision to switch on marketing at that point in time may would have been wrong. Maybe you need to wait for some time before you switch on. So ये टाइमिंग बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है मार्केटिंग में. अगर आप टाइमिंग करेक्ट रखते हो, तो आई थिंक मार्केटिंग विल ऑलवेज बी एन इन्वेस्टमेंट, एंड आई डोंट सी एनी रीजन व्हाई इट शुड बी सीन एज अ कॉस्ट एट ऑल.
I think fair enough. I think Prasun, कि a lot of times from my experiences, what I've seen is कि marketing cost, it becomes heavy on the bill only when companies start to expand or grow, even before they have a product market fit, right? कि product के लिए adoptability, acceptance है नहीं market में, and start to grow, right? And then the whole growth engine starts to fail and all of that, right?
Correct.
But I want to come back to data. You mentioned data, Prasun. आपने बात करी कि बहुत सारा डेटा आ रहा है, बहुत सारा एनालिटिक्स आ रहा है, right? And बहुत सारे insights आ रहे हैं, which has kind of become essential tool also right now for making informed marketing decisions, right? So how do you leverage data and the whole insights and analytics to optimize your ROI on marketing?
Yeah, I think youngsters like you are better prepared to answer these questions. मगर अगर तुम मुझे पुश करोगे आंसर करने के लिए, तो देखो, डेटा मेरे पर्सपेक्टिव से इट रिमेन्स द होली ग्रेल ऑफ बिजनेस, राइट? While all of us have access to data, we have access to primary data, secondary data, tertiary data, all kind of data is under the sun is accessible today. मुझे ये साइंस डेवलप कर पाना और ये कल्चर डेवलप कर पाना जो कि डेटा ड्रिवन कल्चर हो, और ये साइंस डेवलप कर पाना कि आपकी हर थिंकिंग डेटा ड्रिवन हो, is not an easy thing to have or easy thing to do, right? तो मगर with so much of data, the art that you have to learn is actually how to slice and dice that data. And the science that you have to learn out of that is really how to mine insights out of that data. I have seen boring presentations where people have just thrown tables after tables, charts after charts, and fancy charts at that, which really impresses you. The likes of the kind that Big Four share. But they don't give you any conclusion, right? They never, almost never answer your query. They at the end of the day, I have always been more confused as to, there's so much of data but there's no clear answer coming out of it. What is the point really? So I think that art of slicing what part of data you really want to look at, and the science of really and trying to mine insight out of that data. I think that if your objective is that, if your purpose is that, data is good for you. Otherwise, data is a Frankenstein monster. It can just eat you. There's so much of data that you can just get drowned in data and never be able to really come out and do anything meaningful. And I have seen that happening to a lot of fellow marketeers. I've seen that happening to a lot of fellow business professionals where they have just been struggling to manage data. They have just been struggling to really understand what to do, and they are under constant pressure saying, listen, Mr. CMO, you have all this information with you. What good use you are making out of this information? Not an easy task. There, I think the recent evolution that has happened, and I think in last 3-4 years more so, in Martech and the investments that have come in Martech, and a lot of data-driven tools, data analytics tools, and BI tools, etc., that have got developed. They are now kind of helping and resolving a lot of those dilemmas as to what to do with it. But still, we are far away from a day when your one single data lake is kind of generating all kind of insights for you, and everyone within the organization is pulling out from the same data lake, and there's uniformity of data. And even today, one department's data doesn't talk to another department's data, and so on and so forth. And so this entire challenge is, I think, yet to be solved. It remains a holy grail, but it's a worthwhile challenge to solve, because Friedman very interestingly said that last 200 years of invention were about why. We were literally questioning everything, why of everything. And next 200 years of invention will come out of what? It will come out of data. It will come out of what happened, and what happened as a result of something. So data, therefore, is very, very to that extent, of course, is fundamental to building any business, whether you're an online business or offline business. मुझे तो नहीं लगता आज के डेट में कोई भी business offline business है, but it's fundamental to building any business today. But उसको crack करना is still, I don't think we are there.
But I think what is happening is a lot of work is getting done. I totally agree. बहुत सारा scattered data पड़ा हुआ है, centralized नहीं है, एक जगह नहीं है. Data does not talk to each other. But a lot of work is getting done, especially after the whole data revolution that ChatGPT brought in, say around 4-5 months back. So ऐसा बहुत सारा work हो रहा है. Let's see. Let's hope for the best. Let's hope that in the next few years.
नहीं, we can. उसमें थोड़ी इंडिया की थोड़ी अलग challenges हैं ना. I mean, we are not a homogeneous society. Every 100 kilometers there is a different consumer cohort that exists, whose behaviors are different, whose footprints are different. तो इतना हमारे लिए तो थोड़ा कॉम्प्लेक्स है, मगर फिर भी मुझे लगता है कि एक यूनिवर्सल ट्रुथ तो निकल कर आता ही है, नो मैटर विच सेक्शन ऑफ डेटा यू आर लुकिंग एट. तो इसलिए देयर इज होप, बट लॉट ऑफ वर्क टू बी डन.
Yep. I think, Prasun, I just noticed you mentioned that हर 100 किलोमीटर पे एक consumer cohort change होता है. What I've observed is that India is not just one nation, right? India is like probably 200-300 countries, and probably one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of companies make is that early on अपने they find एक product market fit एक consumer cohort में ले आए, तो फिर they start expanding across India, and then they realize कि अरे अलग-अलग जगह पे अलग-अलग product market fit होगा. I think that's a very big challenge that a lot of businesses face, I believe. brilliant point you made.
हाँ, मुझे एक बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग एग्जांपल याद आ रही है. There was this matrimony site called Bharat Matrimony. It's still there, Bharat Matrimony, right? Now Bharat Matrimony adopted a very very interesting strategy, where they looked at every single cohort and they built a separate product for each cohort. So there is a separate agarwalmatrimony.com, there is a separate rajputmatrimony.com, there is a separate tamilmatrimony.com, and so on and so forth. It's brilliant strategy, because then you are really looking at different cohorts, their subsegments, their behaviors, their cultural codes, and you are able to deliver a unique solution to each of them. And I think from a product market point of view, that's one interesting way of solving this. Do you really want to have that one uniform product, delivering to everyone, or you really want to have a kind of a universe of products which are each catering to a different in that segment. It has worked for them. A couple of other brands have not gone that route, but both are equally successful. So I think there's a lot of learning from them.
Yep. Thanks for pointing that out. I think, Prasun, I want to come back to one last bit, which is branding, and बहुत एक crucial aspect है किसी भी successful marketing strategy का. You want to ultimately you want to become a brand that people associate with, and that eventually lowers down your marketing efforts and marketing dollars also, right? Can you tell us about a particularly challenging campaign or rebranding maybe that you had to get involved in?
Okay, I'll give you an example of a campaign that two campaigns actually. एक थोड़ा जिसने challenge पे काम किया, and it helped reinvigorate the brand and business, और दूसरा जिसने brand को disproportionately grow करने में help किया. तो पहला जो मेरा campaign था, I was heading marketing for Sony's smartphone division at that point of time in India, Sony Mobiles, and we had Xperia. Sony used to have Xperia smartphones. So वहाँ पर एक बहुत बड़ा challenge था हमारे सामने. Sony in its previous avatar had a 50-50 joint venture with Ericsson, and we used to have Sony Ericsson phones back in the feature phone days. Now Sony Ericsson's legacy was something that Sony, when it entered into the smartphone game, was unable to shed. And the strong association with those features and feature phones, and Sony Ericsson was very popular phones, was something that the brand had to overcome. And as a result, what had happened is Sony had not been very, very successful in the smartphone segment in India. So I decided to kind of play a hybrid kind of a strategy there. So I decided to pick up a very popular feature of Sony from its feature phone arena era, and bought that feature into the smartphone proposition, and sold smartphones for a particular feature phone feature. So Sony is known for Walkmans. And Walkmans were and sound is something that Sony is synonymous with, sound and sound quality and everything else. Now Sony Ericsson phones were very popular with youngsters because it used to have superior sound quality, and and in feature phone arena, only thing that you used to do is either listen to music FM or you call someone. There was nothing else to do with your phone. So it was very, very popular. So what I did is I commissioned Sony's first Walkman smartphone. And we kind of took an SKU from Southeast Asia, and we converted that into a music proposition phone, smartphone at that, and I brought it to India as W8 Walkman smartphones. Now this particular campaign went in actually in a way reinventing Sony in smartphone category. We were losing market share left, right, and center because Apple had come into picture, and Samsung's Galaxy was very popular, and we really were literally losing market share for 6 consecutive quarters, and so on and so forth. This one campaign not only helped us stem that degrowth, we became this particular SKU became the largest selling SKU in that price band. And it was very interesting because this was for the first time probably where a smartphone was trying to talk music. At that point of time, smartphones were new things. This was, I think, way back in 2011. At that point of time, smartphones were new things, and it was all about therefore access to this new world through internet and this entire phenomena of music. I mean, videos and all those kind of things. Nobody was talking music because music didn't have a face. Okay, music was only music. You could only hear it, so it was not perceived to be very smartphone-ish thing. But here I built a music-based proposition for a smartphone, and we had a runaway success. So that's one example where a campaign really helped resurrect a brand. The other example that I have in my mind is one campaign that I did for Magic Bricks, jahan pe, which helped us really deliver some dramatic metrics. और ये कैंपेन दिस कैंपेन ऑल्सो वन अ लॉट ऑफ अवार्ड्स. और ये कैंपेन बहुत अलग कैंपेन था. इसमें द बेसिक थॉट वाज वेरी सिंपल. The insight was that, listen, if I meet Pritesh for the first time, I say, hi Pritesh, how are you? And the second question I invariably ask is, so which part of the country do you belong to, or where do you stay? Right, the way you asked me in the beginning, are you based off of NCR or wherever it is, right? This is always a conversation starter. Okay. Now, therefore, I realized that your address is one of the most important aspects of a personality. Right? Often you are judged with your address as well. Right? If you're living in an upscale South Mumbai or South Delhi or South Bengaluru area, then you are perceived in a certain way, you're slotted in a certain manner. So your address is very, very important, integral to your personality and to your success. I played on that insight, and we crafted a campaign which is Pata Badlo, Life Badlo. And it was all about upgrading your home. It was all about upgrading your life, upgrading your lifestyle. And come to Magic Bricks, find a home suitable upgrade. Will provide you all other assistance, including home loans, including ABCD. So it was a complete proposition that we had crafted, and that worked really well. It broke many internal records to begin with, in terms of how much it impacted direct traffic, how much it impacted overall traffic and repeat traffic and frequency of visits and everything else, all the metrics that you keep chasing, and time spent on the platform, and so on and so forth. So so it really impacted real business metrics. But more importantly, it resonated very well with the builder community, which are primary source of revenue for the platform. And they saw this in very, very positive light, and we were able to extract 30% incremental. Our ATS went up by 30%. For that season, from the same customer or client. So these are the two examples that I think where I probably got the communication brand fit right, and things worked.
Pata badlo, life badlo, right? Brilliant line, I believe. I think I clearly remember, I think वो सोनी का वो वॉकमैन फोन्स आने लग गए थे, एंड उनके ऊपर वॉकमैन का वो W सा लिखा हुआ आता था, और उसके बाद वॉकमैन लिखा हुआ था.
You do recall that? Wonderful.
Yeah. I've seen that world. I've probably owned one of those phones as well. If you enjoyed this, it would mean a lot to me if you like, share and subscribe your thoughts, reviews and guests you want. दोबारा मिलते हैं next discussion.